Chapter 1. The fluorescent lights of Morrison and Associates buzzed overhead as I hunched over my computer screen. The soft click of my keyboard the only sound in the otherwise empty office. Saturday evening, and here I was double-checking expense reports while the rest of the world enjoyed their weekend. But this was my sanctuary. Numbers never lied, never judged, never asked uncomfortable questions about why a 26-year-old marketing coordinator was spending another Saturday night alone with spreadsheets. My phone buzzed against the desk, and my stomach dropped when I saw the caller ID. Mom. I let it ring twice before reluctantly answering. Hi, Mom. Sophia. There you are. I was beginning to think you'd fallen off the face of the earth. Listen, sweetie, I'm calling about your brother's engagement party next weekend. My heart sank. Another family gathering. Another evening of being the disappointing daughter who couldn't seem to get her personal life together. Oh, right. The engagement party. Your cousin Elena will be there with her new fiancé, such a lovely boy, a surgeon, and Aunt Patricia is bringing her daughter's boyfriend, the one who just bought that gorgeous house in Millbrook. You know, honey, maybe you could invite someone? That nice boy from your yoga class you mentioned. Mom, that was 2 years ago, and he turned out to be married. A pause. Well, what about someone from work? Surely there's someone. Mom, I have to go. I'll see you at the party. I hung up before she could launch into her usual lecture about how I was wasting my best years hiding behind computer screens. The familiar weight of inadequacy settled on my chest like a heavy blanket. At family gatherings, I was the quiet one in the corner, the one who helped in the kitchen to avoid small talk, the one everyone pitied. The office felt suffocating suddenly. I saved my work and grabbed my jacket, desperate for fresh air. As I walked through the darkened downtown streets, my mind wandered to all the upcoming family events. Michael's engagement party was just the beginning. There would be the bachelor party, the bridal shower I'd have to help organize, and finally the wedding itself. Months of sympathetic looks and well-meaning, but crushing advice. I found myself at Grounds and Grains, the 24-hour coffee shop near my apartment. The barista, a girl with purple hair and multiple piercings, looked at me with bored sympathy as I ordered my usual black coffee, extra large. Rough night? She asked, sliding the cup across the counter. Rough life, I muttered, then immediately felt embarrassed for my honesty. I claimed a small table in the back corner and pulled out my laptop. Maybe I could finish the Henderson account reconciliation. Anything to avoid thinking about next weekend. But instead of opening my work files, I found myself staring at a blank browser window. Without really thinking about it, I typed, "How to be confident at social events." The search results were the usual self-help articles and confidence coaching websites. I scrolled through them half-heartedly, knowing that reading about confidence and actually possessing it were two very different things. Then something caught my eye, an advertisement in the sidebar. Professional social consulting. Navigate any event with confidence. I clicked on it before I could talk myself out of it. The website was sleek and minimalist with a simple tagline, Sterling and Associates, when you need more than just advice. The services page was vague but intriguing. Social coaching, event consultation, professional companionship for business and personal occasions, testimonials from clients who had landed promotions, navigated difficult family situations, and overcome social anxiety. At the bottom of the page was a contact form with a simple message. Tell us about your situation. We have a solution. I stared at the screen for a long moment. This was insane. Normal people didn't hire strangers to help them through family events. Normal people just sucked it up and dealt with it. But then again, normal people probably didn't spend Saturday nights hiding in their office, terrified of their own family. Before I could change my mind, I started typing. I have a family engagement party next weekend. I'm tired of being seen as the awkward, unsuccessful daughter who can't get her life together. I need help. Someone who can make me look like I have it all figured out. Professional consultation only. Please contact me if you think you can help. I typed in my email address and hit send before fear could stop me. The confirmation page thanked me for my inquiry and promised someone would be in touch within 24 hours. I closed my laptop and finished my coffee, wondering if I'd just made the best decision of my life or the biggest mistake. As I walked home through the quiet streets, something felt different. For the first time in years, I had taken action instead of just accepting defeat. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. I didn't know that in less than 12 hours, I would receive an email that would change everything. I didn't know that the confident, mysterious man who would soon walk into my life carried secrets that would turn my quiet, predictable world upside down. All I knew was that I was tired of being invisible, tired of being pitted, tired of being afraid. And for the first time in my life, I had done something about it. The response would come tomorrow, and with it, a man named Kai who would teach me that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is pretend to be someone you're not, especially when that pretense starts to feel more real than the life you've been living. Chapter 2. Sunday morning arrived with the gray weight of regret. I stared at my phone over my first cup of coffee, already composing the email I would send to Sterling and Associates to cancel whatever insane arrangement I had initiated the night before. What had I been thinking? Hiring a stranger to help me navigate my family was something desperate people did in movies, not something rational marketing coordinators did in real life. But before I could open my laptop, my phone chimed with a new email notification. The sender made my stomach flip. K. Sterling and Associates. The subject line was simple. Meeting confirmed. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. Ms. Chun, thank you for reaching out. Your situation has been reviewed, and we believe we can provide exactly what you need. I'm available to meet this afternoon at 2 p.m. at Riverside Park, near the fountain. I'll be wearing a black jacket and carrying a leather portfolio. This initial consultation will allow us to determine if we're a good fit for your needs. Best regards, K. Sterling. No pleasantries. No sales pitch. Just direct, confident communication that somehow made my pulse quicken. I checked the timestamp. The email had been sent at 6:47 a.m. Who worked that early on a Sunday? I spent the rest of the morning in a state of nervous energy, changing clothes 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a cream sweater. Professional, but not overdressed for a park meeting. I arrived at Riverside Park 15 minutes early, my palms sweating despite the cool October air. The fountain was a popular spot, surrounded by joggers and families enjoying the autumn afternoon. I claimed a bench with a clear view of the area and tried to look casual while scanning every person who approached. At exactly 2 p.m., I saw him. He walked with a fluid confidence that made people unconsciously step aside, even though he wasn't particularly tall or imposing. Dark hair, broad shoulders beneath a perfectly fitted black jacket, and an intense focus that seemed to cut through the casual chaos of the park. When his eyes found mine across the distance, the recognition was instant and electric. Kai Sterling was nothing like I had expected, and everything I hadn't known I was looking for. He approached my bench with measured steps, and I stood awkwardly, suddenly unsure of the protocol for meeting a professional. What exactly was he? Sophia Chun, he said, extending his hand. His voice was deep, with a slight roughness that suggested someone who didn't waste words. When our hands touched, I felt an unexpected jolt of warmth that traveled up my arm. Mr. Sterling, thank you for meeting me on such short notice. Kai, he corrected, his dark eyes studying my face with an intensity that made me want to look away. And punctuality is important in my line of work. He gestured toward a quieter path that led away from the main fountain area. As we walked, I found myself stealing glances at his profile. There was something almost predatory about the way he moved, like he was constantly aware of everything around him. Tell me about the engagement party, he said without preamble. It's next Saturday. My brother Michael is getting engaged to his girlfriend Sarah. My family will be their parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. They're all very successful, and very concerned about my apparent lack of success in the relationship department. And what do you want them to see instead? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? He stopped walking and turned to face me fully. When you hire me, you're not just hiring someone to stand next to you and smile. You're hiring a transformation. So what do you want to transform into? I opened my mouth and then closed it, realizing I hadn't thought beyond simply not being alone and pitted. I want them to see that I'm not a failure, I said finally. I want them to see that I'm capable of having a relationship, that I'm not the sad, workaholic daughter who can't get her life together. That's what you don't want them to see, Kai said, his gaze unwavering. I asked what you want them to see. The distinction hit me like a physical blow. I had spent so much time trying to avoid being seen as pathetic that I had never considered what I actually wanted to project. I want them to see confidence, I said slowly. I want them to see someone who knows her worth and doesn't apologize for who she is. Better. Something that might have been approval flickered in his dark eyes. And are you prepared to become that person? What do you mean? I don't teach people to pretend, Sophia. I teach them to become. If you want to project confidence, you need to learn to feel it. If you want them to see someone who knows her worth, you need to discover what that worth actually is. The intensity in his voice made my heart race. This wasn't just about hiring an escort or actor to play a role. This was about fundamental change. My fees are substantial, he continued, pulling the leather portfolio from his jacket. But my results are guaranteed. If you're serious about this transformation, we start immediately. If you're looking for someone to simply pose for photos and make small talk, I can recommend other services. He handed me a single sheet of paper. The terms were outlined in clean, precise language. The cost made my eyes widen. It was more than I spent on rent in 3 months. But below the financial details were the conditions that made my breath catch. Complete trust and compliance during our sessions. No questions about my methods. No backing out once we begin the process. And absolute discretion about our arrangement. I looked up at him. This sounds more like a contract with the government than a social consulting agreement. What I do works, Sophia, but it requires total commitment. I can teach you to command a room, to never doubt your own value, to make people see exactly what you want them to see. But you have to trust me completely. The rational part of my brain screamed warnings. This was too intense, too expensive, too much. But sitting in that park, looking at this mysterious, confident man who spoke about transformation like it was a science he had mastered, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope. What if I can't do it? I asked quietly. What if I'm too far gone, too set in my ways? For the first time, Kai's expression softened slightly. Everyone can change, Sophia. The question is whether they want it badly enough to push through the discomfort of growth. I thought about next Saturday, about the familiar weight of shame and inadequacy that would settle on my shoulders the moment I walked into that party, about spending another evening being the object of pity and well-meaning concern. I thought about Kai's question. What did I want them to see? I wanted them to see a woman who belonged, a woman who took up space without apologizing, a woman who was worth knowing. When do we start? I heard myself say. Kai's smile was sharp and satisfied. We start now. Give me your phone. What? Your phone. You're going to call your mother and tell her you're bringing someone to the party. Don't ask her permission. Don't apologize. Just inform her. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. I can't just. Lesson 1, Kai interrupted, his voice firm but not unkind. Stop negotiating with yourself. You've already decided to change. Now you act like the person you want to become. He was right. I had spent my entire life asking permission, apologizing for my presence, negotiating my own worth. The woman I wanted to be wouldn't do that. I dialed my mother's number, my heart pounding as it rang. Hi, Mom. I wanted to let you know I'll be bringing someone to Michael's party on Saturday. His name is Kai, and I'm excited for you to meet him. The pause on the other end was so long I wondered if the call had dropped. You're bringing someone? Sophia, that's wonderful. Tell me about him. What does he do? How long have you been? I'll see you Saturday, Mom. We can talk then. I hung up before she could launch into her interrogation, my entire body trembling with adrenaline. Kai nodded approvingly. How did that feel? Terrifying, I admitted, but also powerful. Good. Fear and power often go hand in hand. Your first lesson is complete. He stood from the bench where we had been sitting, and I realized our meeting was over. But I had so many questions, so many doubts about what I had just committed to. Wait. I called as he started to walk away. What happens next? When do I see you again? Kai turned back, and in the late afternoon light, his eyes seemed to gleam with an intensity that was almost inhuman. Tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. I'll text you the address. And Sophia. His voice dropped to a low rumble that made something deep in my chest flutter. Don't disappoint me. As I watched him walk away, disappearing into the crowd with the same fluid grace he had arrived with, I realized I had just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I had hired Kai Sterling, but something told me I had gotten much more than I bargained for. The transformation he promised was about to begin, and I had the unsettling feeling that by the time it was over, I wouldn't just look different to my family. I would be different. Completely. Chapter 3. The address Kai texted me led to an upscale fitness center in the Arts District, the kind of place with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist decor that screamed expensive membership fees. I stood outside for several minutes, checking and rechecking the address, wondering if I had made a mistake. At exactly 7 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message. 3rd floor. Private studio. Don't keep me waiting. The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened on the 3rd floor, I found myself in a hallway lined with private training rooms. Most were dark, but light spilled from one at the end of the corridor. I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat as I approached. Kai was waiting inside what looked like a dance studio. Mirrored walls, polished wood floors, and absolutely no equipment except for 2 chairs positioned in the center of the room. He had changed from his afternoon attire into dark jeans and a fitted black t-shirt that did nothing to hide the lean muscle of his frame. "You're on time," he observed, closing the door behind me. The click of the lock seemed unusually loud in the empty space. "Was there doubt?" I asked, trying to inject some confidence into my voice. "There's always doubt until someone proves themselves." He gestured toward the chairs. "Sit." I settled into one of the chairs, hyper-aware of my reflection in the surrounding mirrors. From every angle, I could see myself, shoulders hunched, hands clasped tightly in my lap, eyes darting nervously around the room instead of meeting his gaze directly. "What do you see?" Kai asked, taking the chair across from me. "I'm sorry. Look at yourself. All around you. What do you see?" I glanced at the mirrors, then quickly away. "I see me." "No." His voice was sharp. "You see a woman who apologizes for taking up space. You see someone who makes herself smaller in every possible way. Look again." This time I forced myself to really look. In the harsh studio lighting, my posture was even worse than I'd thought. I was curled inward like I was trying to disappear, my gaze fixed on my hands instead of forward. "I see someone who's afraid," I admitted quietly. "Of what?" "Of being seen. Of being judged. Of not being enough. And what happens when you're not enough?" The question hit deeper than I expected. People leave. People decide you're not worth their time or attention or love. Kai leaned forward, his intense dark eyes never leaving my face. "Stand up." I rose awkwardly from the chair, my movements uncertain. "Walk to the other side of the room." I started toward the far wall, my usual hurried, head-down pace. "Stop." His voice cracked like a whip. "What are you running from?" "I'm not running. You're scurrying. Like prey. Like something that expects to be hunted." He stood and moved to block my path. "Walk to me. Not around me, not past me. To me." I took a tentative step forward, then another. When I was close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, he shook his head. "That's not walking. That's approaching for permission." Again. This time I tried to stride more confidently, but I could feel how artificial it looked in the mirrors. "You're performing confidence. I can see you thinking about each step, calculating how you should move." His voice softened slightly. "Confidence isn't a performance, Sophia. It's a state of being. It comes from knowing, without question, that you belong exactly where you are." "I don't know how to feel that," I said, frustration creeping into my voice. "Then we'll start with your body. Your mind will follow." He moved behind me, and I felt his hands rest lightly on my shoulders. The contact sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. "Your shoulders carry the weight of every criticism you've ever received. Drop them." I let my shoulders fall, surprised by how much tension I'd been holding. "Your head is constantly bowed in deference. Lift your chin." His fingers touched the underside of my jaw, tilting my face up. "You have beautiful eyes, Sophia. Stop hiding them." The compliment, delivered in his matter-of-fact tone, made my cheeks burn. "Now walk. Don't think about how you should walk. Just move like you own every inch of this room." I took a few steps, hyper-aware of his gaze on me. "Better. But you're still thinking. Stop thinking and start feeling." He moved to stand in front of me again. "Close your eyes." "What?" "Close your eyes. I want you to imagine someone you admire. Someone who commands respect without demanding it. Can you think of someone like that?" I closed my eyes and thought of Dr. Miranda Hayes, the chief marketing officer at a client company I'd worked with. She was brilliant, decisive, and had a presence that made everyone in the room listen when she spoke. Now imagine you have her confidence, her certainty, her right to take up space. Kai's voice was closer now, low and hypnotic. "Feel it in your bones. Feel it in your blood. You are not asking permission to exist. You are claiming your place in the world. Something shifted inside me. A warmth that started in my chest and spread outward, filling spaces I hadn't realized were empty. Open your eyes and walk. When I opened my eyes, something was different. The mirrors no longer showed a nervous, apologetic woman. They showed someone who looked present, solid, real. I walked across the room, and this time it felt natural, powerful. Yes, Kai said, and the approval in his voice sent another warm rush through me. That's the woman who will walk into your brother's engagement party. How did you? Because confidence is your birthright, Sophia. You've just been convinced to give it away piece by piece, year after year. All I'm doing is helping you take it back. He gestured for me to sit again, and I noticed that my posture had changed completely. I sat straighter, my hands relaxed in my lap instead of clenched. Now we work on your voice, he said. Say something. Anything. Like what? Tell me about your job. I'm a marketing coordinator at Morrison & Associates. We handle mid-level corporate accounts, mostly B2B consulting and... Stop. He held up a hand. You're reciting a job description. Tell me what you do. I paused, confused by the distinction. I create campaigns that help businesses connect with their target audiences, I said slowly. I analyze market data to identify opportunities and develop strategies that drive engagement and growth. Better, but you're still being modest. What are you really good at? I'm good at seeing patterns. I can look at data and spot trends that other people miss. I've increased client engagement by an average of 30% across my accounts. And how does that make you feel? Proud, I admitted, surprised by the answer. It makes me feel proud. Then say it like you're proud, not like you're apologizing for being good at something. This time when I spoke about my work, I could hear the difference. My voice was stronger, more certain. I wasn't minimizing my achievements or hedging my statements with qualifiers. Much better. Kai glanced at his watch. That's enough for tonight. But I want you to practice something before our next session. What? Every morning this week, I want you to stand in front of your bathroom mirror and say 3 things you're proud of. Out loud. Not whispered, not mumbled. Say them like you mean them. That sounds incredibly cheesy. Most effective things do. His lips quirked in what might have been a smile. The mind believes what it hears repeatedly, Sophia. Right now, your internal voice is full of criticism and doubt. We're going to change that soundtrack. As I gathered my purse and jacket, preparing to leave, Kai called my name. Sophia. I turned back to find him watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. What you felt in here tonight, that confidence, that sense of belonging, that's not something I gave you. It was already there. I just helped you remember it. The drive home was surreal. I felt different, like I was inhabiting my body in a new way. When I walked into my apartment, I caught myself in the hallway mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back at me. She stood taller, looked more present, more substantial. I did exactly what Kai had instructed the next morning, standing in my bathroom and stating 3 things I was proud of. It felt ridiculous at first, but by the 3rd day something had shifted. The woman in the mirror was starting to believe what she was saying. By Friday evening, one day before the engagement party, I realized that the transformation Kai had promised was already beginning. I wasn't just preparing to play a confident woman at my brother's party. I was becoming one. But as I picked out my outfit for the next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Kai Sterling than social coaching. The intensity in his eyes, the way he seemed to see straight through to my soul, the almost predatory grace with which he moved, it all pointed to secrets he hadn't shared. Tomorrow night, I would find out just how much my mysterious consultant had been holding back. And I had the unsettling suspicion that the engagement party would reveal more than just my transformation. It would reveal exactly what kind of man I had invited into my life. Chapter 4. Saturday evening arrived with the weight of anticipation and terror. I stood in front of my full-length mirror, adjusting the navy blue dress I'd chosen. Fitted but not tight, elegant but not flashy. For the first time in years, I looked at my reflection and didn't immediately catalog everything wrong with it. The woman in the mirror stood tall, shoulders back, chin lifted. Her eyes were clear and direct. She looked like someone who belonged anywhere she chose to be. My phone buzzed with a text from Kai. I'll pick you up at 7. Remember everything we practiced. At exactly 7 p.m., there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, the sight of Kai in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit nearly made my breath catch. He looked dangerous and sophisticated at the same time, like he could handle a boardroom meeting or a back-alley confrontation with equal ease. "You look stunning," he said, his dark eyes taking in my appearance with an intensity that made my skin warm. "Thank you." I accepted the compliment without deflecting or minimizing it. Another small victory. The drive to Michael's engagement party was filled with quiet conversation as Kai ran through our agreed-upon backstory. We had met at a business networking event 6 months ago. He was a security consultant for high-profile clients. We had been taking things slowly, getting to know each other. Simple, believable, hard to poke holes in. "Remember," he said as we pulled into the valet area of the upscale hotel where the party was being held, "you don't need their approval, Sophia. You're not performing for them. You're simply existing as yourself, confident, successful, and worthy of respect." The hotel ballroom was already buzzing with activity when we arrived. I spotted my family immediately. My parents near the bar, my brother Michael and his fiancée Sarah greeting guests, various aunts and uncles scattered throughout the elegantly decorated space. "Ready?" Kai asked, offering me his arm. I took it, feeling the solid warmth of his presence beside me. "Ready." The first test came within minutes. My Aunt Patricia, resplendent in burgundy silk and armed with her usual arsenal of backhanded compliments, approached us with predatory enthusiasm. "Sophia, you look lovely, dear. And who is this handsome man?" Before I could respond, Kai stepped slightly forward, his smile charming but somehow commanding attention. "I'm Kai Sterling. You must be Patricia. Sophia's told me so much about her favorite aunt." I hadn't mentioned Patricia being my favorite anything, but the compliment hit its mark. My aunt practically preened under his attention. "Oh, how wonderful. And what do you do, Kai?" "I'm a security consultant. I work with executives and high-net-worth individuals to assess and mitigate risks." His explanation was smooth and professional, immediately establishing him as someone successful and important. "How fascinating. And you two met?" "At a networking event," I said, stepping into the conversation with confidence I'd never possessed before. Kai was consulting for one of our client companies. "It was entirely unprofessional of me," Kai added with a smile that could have melted steel. "But I couldn't resist asking her for coffee after her presentation. Sophia has this remarkable ability to see solutions where others only see problems." The way he looked at me when he said it made something flutter in my chest. He wasn't just playing a role. There was genuine admiration in his voice. "Well, isn't that lovely?" Patricia said, though I could see her frantically trying to find something to criticize. "And are you too?" "We're taking our time," Kai said smoothly. "When you find someone worth waiting for, you don't rush things." It was the perfect response. Romantic enough to satisfy my aunt's curiosity, but private enough to shut down further probing. As Patricia moved on to interrogate other family members, I felt a surge of triumph. That conversation had gone better than any family interaction I'd had in years. "How did that feel?" Kai murmured in my ear as we moved toward the bar. "Like I could actually handle this," I admitted. "You can handle anything, Sophia. You always could." The evening continued in a series of small victories. I introduced Kai to my parents with confidence, spoke about my work without minimizing my achievements, and even laughed genuinely at my uncle's terrible jokes instead of hiding in the corner. But it was during dinner that things took an unexpected turn. We were seated at a table with my parents and several family friends when an elderly man approached our table. He was distinguished looking, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying a subtle accent I couldn't place. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion, but I couldn't help noticing you two from across the room." My mother immediately went into hostess mode. "Of course. Please join us. I'm Helen Chen, Sophia's mother." "Dr. Magnus Thorne," the man said, shaking her hand. "I'm an old friend of the hotel owner. I was invited to observe the festivities this evening." Something about the way he said observe made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I glanced at Kai and saw that his entire demeanor had changed. The relaxed, charming man from moments before had been replaced by someone coiled and alert, like a predator sensing danger. "How lovely," my father said, oblivious to the sudden tension. "What brings you to Seattle, Dr. Thorne?" "Research," the older man said, his penetrating gaze fixed on Kai and me. "I study behavioral patterns, family dynamics, the bonds that form between people." It's fascinating how you can sometimes sense a connection between two individuals just by observing them. Oh, how interesting, my mother gushed. What kind of connection can you sense? Dr. Thorne's smile was sharp as a blade. Sometimes you encounter pairs who are unusually well matched. Their energies complement each other in ways that suggest a deeper compatibility than mere attraction or shared interests. I felt Kai's hand find mine under the table, his grip tight and protective. In fact, Dr. Thorne continued, leaning forward slightly, I would say that these two have the kind of bond that transcends ordinary relationships. The kind that can't be broken, regardless of circumstances. The words sent a chill down my spine. There was something about the way he spoke, something knowing and predatory, that made every instinct scream danger. How romantic, my mother exclaimed, completely missing the undercurrent of menace. Indeed, Dr. Thorne said, his eyes never leaving Kai's face. Though such bonds often come with complications, responsibilities, obligations that extend beyond the couple themselves. Kai's jaw was clenched so tightly I could see the muscle jumping. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. I think you may be reading too much into a simple relationship, Dr. Thorne. Am I? The older man's smile was cold. I've become quite good at recognizing these things over the years. The signs are unmistakable once you know what to look for. He stood from the table, straightening his suit jacket with deliberate precision. It was lovely meeting you all. Sophia, Kai, I have a feeling we'll be seeing each other again very soon. As he walked away, I felt Kai's entire body go rigid beside me. What an odd man, my father commented. Charming, but a bit intense. Academic types, my mother said dismissively. They always think they can psychoanalyze everyone. But I was watching Kai's face, seeing the fear and fury warring in his dark eyes. Whatever Dr. Magnus Thorne was, he wasn't just a random academic. And whatever he had seen between Kai and me, it wasn't something that could be dismissed as simple romantic compatibility. We should go, Kai said quietly, his voice strained. I have an early morning. As we made our excuses and left the party, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had just changed. The transformation Kai had promised me was complete. I was no longer the timid, apologetic woman who had walked into that ballroom. But something else had been revealed tonight, something that had nothing to do with confidence training or social consulting. In the car, driving through the dark Seattle streets, I finally found the courage to ask the question that had been building all evening. Kai, who is that man? And what did he mean about bonds and obligations? Kai's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. He's someone from a world I thought I'd left behind. And if he's here, it means everything is about to get much more complicated. The confident, controlled man who had guided me through my transformation was gone, replaced by someone who looked genuinely afraid. And for the first time since I'd hired him, I wondered if Kai Sterling was the one who needed protection. Chapter 5. Kai drove in tense silence to his apartment, a sleek high-rise building in the downtown core that I'd never seen before. The contrast between his luxurious living space and the simple confidence coaching I thought I was paying for became starkly apparent as we rode the elevator to the penthouse level. Kai, you need to tell me what's happening, I said as he unlocked his door with hands that were visibly shaking. Who is Dr. Thorne and why did he terrify you? His apartment was immaculate and minimalist, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the Seattle skyline. But I barely noticed the elegant furnishings because Kai immediately began pacing like a caged animal, running his hands through his hair in agitation. This isn't how it was supposed to happen, he said, more to himself than to me. The contract was supposed to be simple. No complications. No connections. What contract? What are you talking about? He stopped pacing and looked at me with an expression of tortured conflict. Sophia, there are things about me, about my world, that I never intended to involve you in. What we've been doing, the confidence training, the social coaching, it's real. You've genuinely transformed. But it's not the whole truth. A cold dread settled in my stomach. What's the whole truth? Kai moved to the window, staring out at the city lights. My name is Kai Sterling, and I am a consultant of sorts. But not the kind you think. I'm what's called a lone wolf, a werewolf who operates outside the traditional pack structure. The words hung in the air between us. Werewolf. I should have laughed, should have thought he was having some kind of breakdown. But looking at him in that moment, the predatory grace I'd always noticed, the inhuman intensity of his eyes, the way he seemed to sense things others couldn't. It all suddenly made terrible sense. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Is it?" He turned from the window, and in the dim lighting, I could see that his eyes had taken on that golden gleam I'd glimpsed before. "Think about everything you've noticed about me, Sophia. The way I move, the way I seem to know things I shouldn't, the way you felt drawn to me from the moment we met. You're serious." It wasn't a question. The raw honesty in his voice made it clear this wasn't a joke or a breakdown. "Dr. Magnus Thorne is what we call an elder, one of the ancient ones who govern werewolf society. They have the ability to sense bonds between people, particularly the kind of bonds that form between mates." Mates. The word felt foreign on my tongue. In werewolf culture, some individuals are destined for each other. The connection is instant, undeniable, and permanent. It's not something that can be faked or forced. His voice grew quieter. "What Thorne sensed tonight wasn't our business arrangement, Sophia. It was something real." I sank onto his leather sofa, my mind reeling. "This is insane. People don't just mate with werewolves. This stuff doesn't exist. It exists whether you believe it or not." Kai approached slowly, as if I might bolt. "And the fact that an elder has identified you as my mate means you're now part of a world that has what kind of consequences?" His expression darkened. "The werewolf community is secretive and protective. They don't tolerate threats to their existence, and they don't allow their kind to form uncontrolled bonds with humans. If Thorne reports what he sensed tonight, what happens? They'll either force me to claim you officially, which would mean bringing you into the pack structure and changing your entire life, or they'll eliminate what they see as a security risk." The casual way he said eliminate made my blood run cold. "You mean they'll kill me? Not if I can help it." His voice was fierce with protective determination. "But Sophia, you need to understand what we're facing. This isn't just about confidence coaching anymore. This is about survival." I stood up abruptly, pacing to the window he'd been staring out of. The city looked the same as it always had, but everything felt different now. An hour ago, my biggest concern had been whether my family would accept my transformation. Now I was apparently mated to a werewolf and in danger from an ancient supernatural society. "Why didn't you tell me any of this before?" I asked. "Because I thought I could control it." His voice was raw with regret. "I've spent years operating outside pack politics, helping humans with social problems while keeping my nature completely separate. I never expected to feel a mate bond, especially not with a client." "When did you know?" "About the bond. The moment I saw you in the park." He moved closer, and I could feel the heat radiating from his body. I tried to ignore it, tried to keep things professional. But every moment we spent together made it stronger. I turned to face him, studying his expression. "Is that why you were so good at training me? Because of some supernatural connection?" "No." His answer was immediate and certain. "The confidence you found, the strength you discovered, that was all you, Sophia. The bond didn't create your transformation. If anything, it made it harder for me to maintain professional distance. Despite everything, that distinction mattered to me. My growth, my newfound confidence, was real and mine." "So what happens now?" I asked. "We have two choices." Kai's expression was grim. "We can try to convince the elders that the bond isn't real, that Thorne was mistaken. But that would mean cutting all contact and hoping they don't investigate further. And the other choice? We accept the bond. I claim you as my mate, and you become part of my world permanently." The weight of the decision pressed down on me. A week ago, I was a lonely marketing coordinator whose biggest problem was family judgments about her single status. Now I was being asked to choose between giving up the most transformative relationship of my life or entering a supernatural world I didn't understand. What would claiming me involve exactly? Kai's eyes flashed gold. "A mating ceremony that would bond us permanently. You'd gain some of my supernatural abilities, enhanced senses, faster healing, increased strength. But you'd also be bound to werewolf law and subject to pack authority. Would I become a werewolf? No. Humans who mate with werewolves remain human, but they become what we call pack bonded. You'd be under the protection of werewolf society, but also subject to its rules." I thought about the woman I'd become over the past week. The confidence, the sense of worth, the feeling that I could handle anything life threw at me. That woman wouldn't run from this challenge, no matter how terrifying it was. "How long do we have to decide?" "Not long. Thorne will report to the council within days. Once they know about you, They'll expect a resolution quickly. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and froze. Kai, I said, my voice barely a whisper. It's from my mother. She says Dr. Thorne asked for my contact information. He wants to meet with me tomorrow. The color drained from Kai's face. He's moving faster than I expected. What does that mean? It means the choice has been made for us. His voice was grim with determination. If Thorne is contacting you directly, he's planning to force our hand. We can't wait any longer. He moved to a desk in the corner of his apartment and pulled out what looked like an official document. What is that? A mating contract. I had it prepared years ago, hoping I'd never need to use it. He brought it to me, his expression serious. Sophia, I need you to understand what I'm asking. If you sign this, there's no going back. Your life as you knew it will be over. I took the document, scanning the formal language. It was essentially a marriage contract, but with clauses about pack loyalty, supernatural secrecy, and mutual protection that no human legal document would ever contain. And if I don't sign it, then I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe, but I can't guarantee it will be enough. I looked at the man who had transformed my life in ways I never could have imagined. The confident, mysterious consultant who had taught me to value myself was revealing himself to be something far more complex and dangerous. But the core of who he was, the protector, the teacher, the man who saw my worth when I couldn't see it myself, that was real. If I sign this, I said slowly, it won't be because I'm afraid of Dr. Thorne or the Werewolf Council. Then why? I met his intense gaze directly. Because the woman you helped me become isn't going to run from the most important decision of her life. I signed the contract with steady hands, sealing my fate with a man who was about to introduce me to a world I never knew existed. As Kai witnessed my signature, his expression was a mixture of relief, gratitude, and something that looked like wonder. Welcome to my world, Sophia, he said softly. I promise you won't regret this. But as I looked out at the Seattle skyline one last time as merely human, I couldn't shake the feeling that my real transformation was only just beginning. Chapter 6. The mating ceremony took place at dawn in the mountains outside Seattle, in a clearing that felt ancient and sacred despite being only an hour's drive from the city. I had expected something elaborate, but the ritual was surprisingly simple. An exchange of vows witnessed by two other werewolves Kai trusted, followed by a binding that I felt more than saw. The moment it was complete, the world shifted. Colors became more vivid, sounds more distinct. I could hear Kai's heartbeat, could smell the pine and earth around us with startling clarity. Most surprisingly, I could feel him. Not just his physical presence, but his emotions, his protective instincts, the depth of connection he had been holding back. How do you feel? He asked as we drove back into the city, my hand clasped firmly in his. Different, but not in a bad way. I flexed my fingers, marveling at the subtle but noticeable increase in strength. It's like I've been living with dulled senses my entire life. The enhanced abilities will stabilize over the next few days. But Sophia, what you're feeling now is permanent. We're bonded for life. The weight of that reality should have been terrifying, but instead it felt right. The woman I had become through Kai's training was someone who could handle this new world, this extraordinary life. My phone rang as we pulled into downtown Seattle. Dr. Thorne's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, Kai said grimly. But put it on speaker. Ms. Chun, Dr. Thorne's cultured voice filled the car. I trust you had an enlightening evening. Dr. Thorne, I was surprised to receive your message. I'm sure you were. I wonder if you might join me for coffee this morning. There are matters we should discuss. I looked at Kai, who nodded. I'm available. Where would you like to meet? The Fairmont Olympic Hotel. The Georgian restaurant. In 1 hour. The line went dead, and I realized my hands were trembling slightly. He knows, I said. Of course he knows. Elders can sense mate bonds from considerable distances. The question is what he plans to do about it. An hour later, we walked into the elegant restaurant to find Dr. Thorne waiting at a corner table, looking perfectly composed in an expensive suit. He rose as we approached, his sharp blue eyes taking in our joined hands and the subtle changes in my appearance. Ms. Chun, Mr. Sterling, please sit. We settled across from him, and I was surprised to find that I felt calmer than I expected. The confidence Kai had taught me, combined with the enhanced senses from our bond, made me feel more capable of handling whatever this encounter would bring. I assume congratulations are in order, Dr. Thorne said, his tone neutral. A mating bond completed in such expeditious circumstances. We saw no reason to delay once we understood the situation, Kai replied carefully. Indeed. Thorne leaned back in his chair, studying us both. Tell me, Ms. Chun, how much do you understand about the world you've just entered? Enough to know that I've made the right choice, I said, meeting his gaze directly. Kai has explained the basics of werewolf society and the obligations that come with our bond. Has he? There was something almost amused in the elder's expression. And you're prepared for the scrutiny, the lifestyle changes, the permanent alteration of everything you thought you knew about reality? I spent my entire life being small, Dr. Thorne. Apologizing for existing, hiding from challenges, letting other people define my worth. I felt Kai's pride through our bond, strengthening my resolve. The woman I've become doesn't run from difficult situations. She faces them. For the first time, Dr. Thorne smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his austere features. Fascinating. Mr. Sterling, you've chosen well. This young woman has the strength necessary for what lies ahead. What lies ahead? Kai asked, tension evident in his voice. Integration, naturally. The council has reviewed your situation and decided that rather than viewing this as a complication, we see it as an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? Thorne gestured to a waiter, ordering coffee as if we were discussing the weather rather than my supernatural future. Lone wolves like yourself, Mr. Sterling, possess valuable skills but operate outside our traditional support structures. Your mate bond with Ms. Chun presents a chance for you to take on more official responsibilities. You're offering me a position with the council? Kai's disbelief was clear. We're offering you both positions. Ms. Chen's background in marketing and analysis, combined with her newly enhanced abilities and obvious courage, makes her ideally suited for liaison work between the supernatural and human communities. I felt my pulse quicken. You want me to work for the Werewolf Council? We want you to help us navigate the modern world, Ms. Chun. Supernatural society has traditionally been insular, but times are changing. We need individuals who understand both worlds. People who can help us adapt while maintaining our secrecy. The offer was unexpected and intriguing. Instead of being punished for stumbling into their world, I was being invited to help shape it. And if we refuse? Kai asked. Then you continue as you were, but with council oversight and protection. The choice is yours, but I believe you'll find our offer mutually beneficial. As we discussed the details over coffee, I realized that my transformation was even more complete than I'd imagined. A week ago, I was afraid to speak up at family dinners. Now I was negotiating with supernatural entities about my role in bridging two worlds. 3 months later, I stood in the same hotel ballroom where my brother's engagement party had been held, but this time for Michael's wedding. The family who had once pitted me now looked at me with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. The confident, successful woman married to the mysterious but charming consultant was so far from their expectations that they had simply accepted the transformation without question. You look happy, my mother said, adjusting my bridesmaid dress. Truly happy. I am, I said, and meant it completely. Kai appeared at my side, impossibly handsome in his dark suit, and I felt the familiar warmth of our bond strengthen my already considerable confidence. Ready to face the family inquisition? He murmured in my ear. With you? I can face anything. As we walked into the reception together, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. I had hired Kai to help me survive a social situation, but he had given me something far more valuable: the tools to transform myself completely. The shy, apologetic marketing coordinator was gone, replaced by a woman who worked with supernatural councils, who had enhanced abilities, and who was bonded for life to an extraordinary man. But more importantly, she was replaced by someone who knew her own worth and wasn't afraid to claim her place in any world. No regrets? Kai asked as we took our seats at the head table. I looked around at my family, chattering and laughing, and completely unaware that they were celebrating alongside werewolves and supernatural consultants. I thought about my new job, the challenges ahead, and the incredible bond that connected me to the man beside me. None, I said firmly. The woman who hired you was looking for confidence coaching. The woman I became was ready for so much more. Kai's smile was brilliant and full of love. Then we both got more than we bargained for. As the music began and the celebration continued around us, I realized that some of the best things in life come from taking risks you never planned to take. I had signed a contract for professional social consulting and ended up with a supernatural mate bond, enhanced abilities, and a career I never could have imagined. But most importantly, I had found myself, the confident, capable, extraordinary woman who had been waiting inside me all along. The transformation was complete, and my real life was just beginning. The end.